Hello and thank you so much for tuning into FunAhead TV. Today's episode is the first installment of a two-part series about modifications that I'm making over the winter to my Porsche Cayman S. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the Pagid brake pads, the RS14 brake pads, which I have installed onto my car in order to significantly increase the vehicle's braking capabilities. The second of the two items has to do with the exhaust, and I'm going to be talking about that in a different video, but please hit that subscribe button if you're interested in seeing what I'm doing there. So, without further ado, let's talk about those brakes. Let me give you a little bit more background as to why I decided to do this job. The stock Techstar pads are fine, but they just felt a little bit too soft to me. They do a great job of holding a lot of heat. You can really push them, and they are very quiet, but they just don't provide enough bite. You can tell they were just designed a little bit too soft with the daily driver in mind, which is fine for that purpose. However, when I drive my car, I really drive my car, and I like to feel a lot more bite in the brake pads when I hit that brake pedal. I do regularly bleed my brakes too, and these were pretty fresh pads, so it wasn't a brake system problem. It was just truly that the pads themselves don't provide enough bite. So, I decided that I really needed to step up the brake pad game, and I went all out by buying the Pagids. I decided to go for the RS14 pads, which are supposed to provide quite a bit of initial bite, and of course, because they're race pads, they can hold a lot of heat. But I guess at this point, the only remaining question is, are the race pads worth it? And do they make that big of a difference from the stock pad? Well, let's find out. So of course, new brake pads require a bedding process. So I put a link in the description to a video for how to do that exactly. Yesterday, after installing the brake pads, I went out and did just that. I did the full bedding process as best as possible. You're supposed to do it on a racetrack for race pads. Of course, I don't have access to a racetrack right now, so I did the best I could on some backcountry roads. So here we are post-bedding process, and this is going to be the first time that the brake pads are supposed to be, at their full capacity. I'm going to warm them up a little bit. We're going to do some stops, and we'll be able to see just how well they perform. A little bit of a teaser, I can tell you just from the bedding process drive yesterday, they're not even supposed to be up to like their full potential during the bedding process, but they're not even on the same planet as the stock Techstars. They are a completely different brake pad. So without further ado, let's go do some fun stuff. This parking lot's a little bit gravelly, a little dirty, so we might not get optimal traction, but here we go. Holy cow. That's cold. That's like the first stop I just did. Those are cold. Holy cow. Alright, we're getting a little bit of heat into them now. That was freaking impressive. Gosh. Holy cow. These things just freaking hook up. The pedal travel is just, like it's perfect now. It's like just right where you want it to be. Like the pedal travel to brake effort ratio is perfect. Unfortunately, however, it's not all fun and games with these pads. There are some downsides. The main one being is that they're expensive. They're about $330 for the front wheels and $280 for the rear. That's just pads. That's not even rotors. Simply pads. And those are the RS14s. There's more expensive ones. The endurance pads I think are like 1.5 times that or something insane. Plus, if you're going to be using them on the street, you need to push them. These are race pads. They're always meant to be operating at a very high temperature. If you don't do that, then eventually they'll get glazed over and you'll need to rebed them, which isn't too big of a deal, but they're not, you know, your everyday brake pads that can just take some small amount of brake force and keep operating at their prime. And finally, another big downside of these, which you can probably hear right now, is that they are loud. Oh yeah. Actually, a lot of the technology that goes into normal street pads is sound deadening. All of the performance is at the expense of NVH. So there's nothing in the pad compound, nothing on the backing itself that's meant to keep these pads quiet. Any of that at all. So if you're going for quiet, if you're going for everyday driver, these are not the pads for you. These pads, in my opinion, are the way to round out the visceral feeling of this car. Every other control in this car is so confidence-inspiring. The steering, the shifter, throttle response. There's that squeal right now. It's all just so good, just out of the, like, off the showroom floor. The brakes were the one thing that I felt were a little bit lacking. But having race pads such as these really, really round out the car and complete the entire package. Pads like these will give you the confidence to brake later and later into the corners, because you already know the chassis can take whatever you're going to throw at it once you enter that corner. Yeah. These are so confidence-inspiring, it's amazing. I'm not a guy who likes to change all the things that the manufacturer intended. Like I said before, I love cars the way they are, stock. I like to respect them that way. The engineers set this car up the way they did for a reason. In the case of the brake pads, okay, it was going to be an everyday driver for some people. They don't want squealing brake pads going up to every intersection. They're going to get so many complaints. People a lot of times can't understand, well, hey, it's a performance car. Your brake pads can squeal. Well, you'll still get customer complaints for the guys that want to putz around in these things. All it takes is some brake pads to make this car a fully well-rounded performance car. So if you're looking for that next level, that next notch up of things to do to your Cayman, I would highly, highly, highly recommend using these. Getting a set of these brake pads. They'll completely change the way that your car drives. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in to FunAhead TV. And please hit that subscribe button for more Cayman content coming soon.